just join us. Gifton Wallace, Kairos Ministries International, Dr. Donna Powell Wilson, Executive Director of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica. Our guest speaker, Dr. Davia Ramjeet, Principal Knox Community College. Members of the all presidents and principals of community colleges, represented today by Ms. Horton, the principal of Brownstone Community College, members of the secretariat staff, faculty, all other distinguished guests. Good morning. I'm Jason McIntosh, and I will be your moderator for today's public lecture and a symposium that is hosted by the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica as part of our STEAM Week 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have you with us as we explore the role of STEAM education, innovation, and human capital development in shaping Jamaica's future. At this time, we want to set the tone for the day, and so we'll be inviting Bishop Gifton Wallace to lead us in invocation.
Good morning, everyone. standing on the protocols that has already been established by Sir McIntosh. And I am going to be inviting us to pray. Prior to that, St. Luke chapter 2:52 gave what I consider a fourfold development of Jesus. Luke was the only one who did that. He spoke about Jesus increasing in wisdom, stature, favor with God and man, mental development, physical development, a spiritual development, and a relational development. And as you come together as a council, we know what your priority is, ensuring that education is offered at its best. And so what you are really doing is submitting to instructions in scriptures. Let us pray. Father, we are so very grateful that you have blessed us with the first blessing of the day, that of being alive. And we want to thank you that you have invited us, that in all our ways we must acknowledge you. And you gave us the assurance of your words that you will direct our path. We thank you, Lord, that we have an understanding that even before we called, you would have answered us. And while we are yet speaking, you would have brought it to pass. Therefore, we enter your presence with confidence, recognizing our own limitations. But we are so very grateful that we are encouraged in your words, that we can do all things through you who gives us strength. And so we want to thank you, Lord, for the council. We want to thank you for every person here represented, every organization represented here. We want to thank you that when we left our homes this morning, you were very gracious to have guided us here safely, protecting us from anything at all that would have been organized for our hurt and destruction. And so as we come, we give ourselves totally to you. And we ask that you will direct the proceedings. We pray that as we engage in conversation, and as ideas are passed, and as voices are heard, that you will be glorified. And whatever is done not just for the benefit of the council only, but for those whom we will serve in the capacity as students. We pray that you will give direction to Sir McIntosh as he guide the proceeding, and those who will sit on the panel, that you will continue to open their minds, Lord, as they have given themselves over to study. And we thank you, Lord, that they are giving quality service. May your name be glorified as they engage. And we ask that the time spent will be one that is very engaging, one that all of us would have benefited, and above everything else, that you will be glorified. We ask for your continued direction, not just for this proceeding, but as each person continue to serve in their different capacities, that you will enable, you will empower them to do that which you have gifted them so to do. We thank you that our prayers are heard, and we give the praise, the honor, and the glory to you, because that belongs to you and you alone. Through Christ our Lord, we say amen.
Thank you very much, Bishop Wallace, for grounding us so meaningfully as we begin today's proceedings. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Donna Powell-Wilson, Executive Director of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, to deliver opening remarks, welcome, and an overview of STEAM Week. Please help me to make her welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. McIntosh. Kindly allow me also to stand on the protocols already established. Good morning, distinguished educators, researchers, innovators, industry partners, policymakers, friends of the tertiary education system. On behalf of our Chairman of Council, Dr. Gavin Daly, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to STEAM Week 2023. 2026. The Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, through its General Bulletin number 144, 2025, issued on December 15, indicated its intention to celebrate National STEAM Week from Sunday, January 25 to Friday, January 29. This national observance was to create public participation and to embrace a learning model that not only equips learners with knowledge, but with the creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world. During this national observance, the CCCJ, an agency of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, and a thought leader in post-secondary education, will lead the tertiary education sector in discussions on how learning, innovation, and skills development can reshape Jamaica's future under the theme STEAM, Innovation, and Jamaica's Human Capital Transformation. At the CCCJ, STEAM is not only a collection of subjects. We understand STEAM to be a mindset rooted in innovation, collaboration, problem solving, impact, and adaptability. STEAM is about equipping learners to respond to real-world challenges, such as climate resilience, digital transformation, productivity growth, and entrepreneurship and workforce competitiveness. This year is especially meaningful for us at the CCCJ. CCCJ will celebrate 25 years of service to tertiary education in Jamaica and the wider region in 2025. Clap us. Thank you. For a quarter of a century, we have provided curriculum development, assessment and examination services, certification, and quality assurance that support learner mobility, institutional strengthening, and workforce relevance. But today, we affirm something deeper. Our responsibility goes beyond certification. The future demands more than content mastery. It demands critical thinkers, ethical leaders, creative problem solvers, digital innovators, and adaptable lifelong learners. Individuals prepared for not just today's job, but for tomorrow's opportunity. That is why STEAM is not an option for us at the CCCJ. It is a requirement. We are aware that Jamaica's development trajectory depends on our ability to align education, industry, innovation, and policy around the skills and competencies required for a rapidly changing economy. One shaped by digitalization, automation, climate pressures, and global competition. The tertiary sector, especially our CCCJ member institutions, all 10 of them, sits at the very heart of this urgent transformation agenda. Each program offered on the CCCJ represents not a single course, but a culmination of interrelated learning experiences designed to build technical expertise, applied competence, transferable skills, and professional identity. Taken collectively, the design, delivery, and output of the programs, that's 13 programs at the bachelor level, 11 at the associate level, 18 at the applied associate, 15 at the occupational associate, 2 at the diploma, and 5 at the certificate level, reflect core STEM principles. In fact, these programs either embed STEM intentionally or function as full STEAM ecosystems. Let me offer just one example. Our Bachelor of Science in Business Administration includes courses such as Management Information System, a STEAM-aligned course grounded in technology systems, data-informed decision-making, process innovation, and organizational effectiveness. This is STEAM at work in commerce, management, entrepreneurship, and leadership, reminding us that STEAM is not confined to laboratories and engineering workshops. It lives in boardrooms, startups, classrooms, communities, creative minds, and the public sector. In our tertiary institutions, STEAM disciplines are shaping our learners. At CCCJ, we are not only developing curricula, we are investing in capacity building. Transformation does not happen through syllabi alone. It happens through people, practice, and partnership. Hence, we invite you here today. The CCCJ continues to support the ministry with responsibility for education, lecturers, program leaders, administrators, and institutions in STEAM-related activities through work-integrated learning, industry-aligned assessment, technology-enhanced instruction, competency-based approaches, and sustainability and ethics framework. STEAM education is one of the most powerful tools we have to advance the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDGs 4, 8, 9, 11, and 13. For us at the CCCJ, sustainability is not an add-on. It is embedded in how we think about curriculum relevance, institutional development, workforce alignment, and learner success. We believe that education must do more than prepare students for employment. It must prepare them for citizenship. It must prepare them for leadership in an interconnected world. Our commitment to the SDGs is intentional, as evidenced by the signing of the SDG Accord by CCCJ and member institutions. STEAM provides the architecture for transformation. That is why CCCJ remains committed to strengthening the TVET tertiary curriculum, to advancing quality assurance and certification, to supporting curriculum modernization, to promoting industry engagement, to championing research, innovation, and development, and to embedding sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals alignment across programs. I therefore commend the team from the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Innovation at the CCCJ. The team was charged with planning CCCJ STEAM Week. I commend other secretariat staff for the work they have put in this week. I commend the principals, president of our member institutions, the faculty, institutions, partners, presenters, participants from other tertiary education sector, for creating this platform for dialogue, discussion, disruption, and development. Your commitment to excellence, relevance, and impact makes STEAM Week both timely and transformative. Thank you for your time, thank you for attending, and thank you for your participation in STEAM Week 2026. I wish you a powerful, productive, and transformative day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Powell Wilson, for that insightful overview and for setting the strategic context for STEAM Week. I'd just like to reiterate what was said earlier, that STEAM is not just about subjects. It's a mindset, It's about problem-solving skills and adaptability, which are essential for success in a rapidly changing global environment. We will now be receiving brief greetings from our key partners, and we will now be inviting Mrs. Michelle Degou, Education Officer, Tertiary Unit of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, to bring us greetings. Please make her welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me begin by extending warm greetings on behalf of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, where we remain fully committed to the strengthening of Jamaica's higher education and training ecosystem. Permit me to acknowledge Dr. Powell Wilson, the Executive Director of CCCJ, our moderator, our distinguished keynote speakers, Dr. Davia Ramjeet, Principal of the Knox Community College, representatives of our tertiary and training institutions, members of the public and private sector, educators, students, innovators, members of the media, and all other specially invited guests. It is indeed a pleasure to bring greetings at this important National STEAM Education Week, Public Lecture and Symposium. This week's focus on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, is not simply about promoting academic disciplines. It is about shaping the capacity of our people, strengthening our national competitiveness, and building a Jamaica that can thrive in realities of the 21st century. STEAM education is one of the strongest bridges between education and development. It connects what happens in classrooms and laboratories to what is needed in workplaces, communities, industries, and our national economy. This is why your presence here today matters, because STEAM transformation cannot be achieved by educators alone. It requires a national coalition. From the perspective of the Ministry of Education, let me highlight a key point. Tertiary education is where STEAM becomes national capability. It is at the tertiary level that we deepen scientific knowledge, train engineers, develop technologists, support education, strengthen entrepreneurship, and build the research and innovation capacity that every modern country must have. Our teacher education institutions, community colleges, polytechnics, and specialist tertiary institutions play a central role in training the future of the workforce, retooling and reskilling adults already in the labor market, developing cutting-edge programs aligned with modern industry, and in ensuring that our national education system produces graduates who are not merely certified, but competent, adaptable, creative, and ethical. We cannot speak meaningfully about STEM without linking it to Jamaica's national priorities. STEAM must help us solve Jamaica's problems and advance Jamaican opportunities such as climate resilience and disaster risk reduction, renewable energy and sustainable development, food security and agricultural innovation, public health and biomedical advancements, digital transformation across government and industry, and growth of the creative industries where the arts within STEM plays a powerful role. In other words, STEAM is not just education, it is nation building. Real STEAM advancement must be inclusive. This means that we must ensure that STEAM pathways are accessible not only to a select group of students, but to rural learners, urban learners, students with disabilities, young women entering traditionally male-dominated technical fields, and adult learners pursuing second chance education and training. We must ensure that the STEAM ecosystem has multiple pathways: academic, technical and vocational, applied and industry-linked, and research and innovation pathways. Each learner must be able to find their place in the system and see a future for themselves. As we expand STEAM offerings in our tertiary institutions, quality must remain non-negotiable. We want more programs, yes, but more importantly, we want better programs, better aligned to labor market needs, grounded in sound curriculum standards, supported by equipped laboratories and learning spaces, strengthened through partnership within industry, and delivered by competent educators and trainers. And we must also continue that all innovations, new programs, new delivery models, and new credentials are developed without compromising quality. A call to action. Allow me to end with a challenge and an invitation. Let us use this symposium to strengthen what I call the STEAM pipeline and the STEAM ecosystem. From early childhood, curiosity to primary and secondary foundations, to tertiary specializations, to employment and entrepreneurship, STEAM must be a continuous national pathway supported by educators, parents, policymakers, researchers, corporate Jamaica, and civil society organizations like CCCJ. If we build this ecosystem well, we will produce not only STEAM graduates, but STEAM leaders, not people who will design solutions, innovate responsibilities, people who will design solutions, innovate responsibility, and lead Jamaica into a more productive, resilient, and globally competitive future. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information and the Tertiary Branch, I commend the CCCJ for hosting this meaningful engagement. I wish you every success with National STEAM Education Week. Thank you, and I wish you a productive and inspiring symposium.
Thank you, Mrs. Degu. I'll now be inviting Ms. Claudette Horton, the representative of the All Principals President of Community Colleges of Jamaica. Please make her welcome.
Mr. Jason McIntosh, moderator, please allow me to stand on the protocol already established. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Wonderful. On behalf of the principals and presidents of community colleges, it is my honor and privilege to extend warm greetings to you all at this very historic occasion. The Council of Community Colleges' first STEAM Public Lecture and Symposium. I congratulate the CCCJ on putting on this very timely event as we celebrate STEAM Awareness Week 2026 and celebrate CCCJ's 25th anniversary. The 10 member colleges, including 5 community colleges, 3 multidisciplinary colleges, and 2 polytechnic colleges, are strategically located across the parishes of Jamaica and provide access to thousands of students embracing STEAM. Today, we emphasize our commitment to preparing our students for the realities of a rapidly changing world, while ensuring that Jamaica remains competitive, innovative, and resilient. As principals and presidents, we experience firsthand the transformative power of STEAM education. For us, STEAM is not just a curriculum, it is really, as Dr. Paul Wilson said, a mindset. STEAM encourages creativity alongside critical thinking, innovation alongside analysis, and collaboration alongside individual excellence. In aligning STEAM education with Jamaica's innovation and economic agenda, we at the colleges ensure that our graduates are not only employable, but we are also ensuring that they are creators of opportunities, they are problem solvers, and leaders who drive innovation for national development. We recognize that Jamaica's economic future depends on how well we harness the talents of our people, whether in renewable energy, digital technology, agriculture, health sciences, architecture, or the creative industries. STEAM education really provides the tools to unlock these possibilities. Community colleges are accessible, affordable institutions of higher learning, and we stand ready to be engines of this transformation, bridging the gap between education and industry, between aspirations and achievements. The APCCJ member colleges commit to continue our work within the CCCJ across our colleges to embed STEAM into the very fabric of our educational system, so that Jamaica can thrive in the global innovation economy. We are acutely aware that the future of Jamaica depends on how we educate, innovate, and transform today. We extend heartfelt congratulations and thanks to the CCCJ for spearheading this initiative. May this symposium be a resounding success. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our partners for sharing with us and for bringing greetings. It's now time for us to hear in church we say from the set man. But this time it's not a set man, it's a set woman. Praise. You got that. All right, so at this time Mr. Lance Scott, our research officer, will be introducing our guest speaker today.
Good morning. All protocols observed. Dr. Ramjeet is an educator and leader with over 2 decades of experience in the higher education management. Since 2018, she has transformed Knox Community College into a modern, resilient institution through strategic vision, digital innovation, and accreditation success. Her leadership accolades include establishing national-level policies, modernizing facilities, digitizing core processes and securing 5-year registration status from the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission. She has represented Jamaica internationally, presenting at the World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnic Congress on key matters such as diversity and inclusion, guided by a principle of policies, not politics. Dr. Ramjeet is committed to advancing STEAM education and sustainable institutional growth. Please help me welcome Dr. Davia Ramjeet.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. It is not my habit to stand on podiums to give a lecture. In fact, I prefer, in the setting of giving a lecture or a talk, to interact with my audience and be closer to them. So I'm going to start here and be hopeful that my memory will serve me right before the gentleman from JIS who promised me a microphone comes. Allow me also to stand on the protocols that were observed, and I thank my colleagues in higher education for their greetings. And of course, Dr. Paul Wilson, congratulations to the CCCJ on their, or should I say our 25 years of existence, not just only for piloting how we present ourselves in tertiary education, but for the quality and dedication to quality among us all 10 member institutions in the public higher education space. Do I go now? I will start my lecture by sharing with you a little bit of my journey. In 2014, I had the distinct opportunity to do my first study tour. Now, I don't know if in 2014, in your journey or on your journey, you're allowed or knew of ideas or ideologies such as study tours. My leader at that time in a secondary space went to the Grand Cayman on secondment by our government. And when he came back, he tried to implement what was known then, ED 365 SIMS. The first year we launched SIMS at that secondary school, it was not very successful. And so I was responsible for its implementation on behalf of this said principal. The board allowed myself to go to Grand Cayman, and when I was sent, from a very early stage in my career, I recognized that sustainability mattered. I decided I would not go to Grand Cayman without a team. I didn't know my next step, didn't know I was going to move on from the institution, but I asked the principal if he could just lobby and find us some money so a team of 4 could go to Grand Cayman. Now, when we went to Grand Cayman for a week, what we did was understudy persons who had been using iSIMS. I know it's a different cultural context, but what I recognized very early in our first year of implementation was that we didn't recognize how change would take place in our setting. We were very fond of the idea that we're getting a new technological tool, and we were just very excited to be the only ones in Jamaica to have that tool in 2014 at the secondary space. At that time, perhaps only tertiary institutions would have learning management tools. And so when we went to Grand Cayman, we spoke to persons at the primary level, prep school level, high school level, both private and public. Coming back, we learned that we did not really gain. What we saw was a model there that was not easily replicated in Jamaica. So, I don't know how many of us in here are educators, but I've been in education formally since 2003, and playing multiple roles. In Cayman, whatever your job description is, that is it. You don't take on a little admin here, you don't do this extra here and there. So when I spoke with persons in Grand Cayman, what would happen is that they would be focused on substitution. So if your role was to ensure that there is class coverage in the database system, you're only managing that. In our implementation of the said program, we had one person trying to navigate everything and still trying to get buy-in. So that was my first experience of 2014 going on a study tour, and I'm getting to the point of why this model is important. My next adventure took me to China, 2017. Dr. Grace McLean allowed several educators from across Jamaica to go on a study tour hosted by Zhejiang Normal University. If you have been to China, you'll recognize that the connotation normal means teaching. Any institution labeled as a normal university, it meant it was a fundamental teaching university. Now, we don't have such. And at the time, I can tell you that on our journey, we did 7 provinces. And if you know anything about China, 7 provinces is like going to 7 different countries. We spent a total of 3 weeks. But I felt in my first trip to China that I was more culture shocked than anything else. I didn't like the food. Obviously, I have a Western tongue. And so the food was completely different. In fact, when I went to Shanghai, my friend and colleague from Brownstone High School, we walked several blocks just to find a McDonald's. That's how bad we felt the food was. And it was refreshing to go to a predominantly British setting in Shanghai. If you know its history, it's, foundation in British type of culture. And so we went 3 blocks just to find a McDonald's. Fast forward, 2019, my esteemed colleagues from the tertiary setting, we went on our own study tour. We decided to venture to Canada. We also ventured to United States, and we are always searching for models and partnerships. I am not certain how well we did in the US, but we still maintain a number of partnerships with the Canadians. Again, some of us will have some engagements. I know that Case, Excelsior, the Monique College, we all have partnerships with these entities. And of course, we have MOUs through the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica. Cementing the point that we are always trying to advance what we do in our ecosystem by way of our partners and friends in other countries. Still going forward, 2023, Dr. Felicia Marshall shared with me an email for an invitation as a visiting scholar. Fortunately, it said China, and I jumped at it. I did an interview at some 3 a.m. one morning and was successful among 100 and odd persons who applied for visiting scholarship. I met a number of persons when we went to Shanghai. We spent 2 weeks. This time, not a normal university, but it was an open university. Now, Jamaica does not have that. So the persons I met were all from universities. I was the only one from a college. So that partnership or that involvement allowed me to also visit Tanzania to speak there. I am saying this to say each time our government invests in us going on study tours, it is a future investment or a return on investment for us to know what is a better or best fit going forward. Now, colleagues, I'm happy to present to you that this particular lecture series is not necessarily about all the different study tours that I've been to, but predominantly which one stood out and which one I believe that we can replicate. So I know many a times when we think about a lecture, we're perhaps thinking of a scholarly conversation. I don't want us to believe that we're having a scholarly conversation. Despite the amount of doctoral degrees in the room, the experts are the persons in the classrooms who deliver lectures far better or more than many of us in administration. So I'm not here to steal any thunder about lectureship. I'm here to share with us that when we think about a model for an ecosystem, we're not just talking about the experiences that we might have through research sitting in our own spaces. It can be lived experiences by traveling abroad. So we're engaging in culture, we're socializing, and sometimes we have to really reconsider at what point in our implementation process the things become real. And again, for Mr. Scott who introduced me, I am very keen on policies, not politics. Across both governments of Jamaica, they have invested heavily in education. What I'm not keen on is how heavily invested we have been in recreating our ecosystem for the next 50 years. So like in many spaces, the political agenda may change, but we are at a point now we have to agree about the creation of an ecosystem that will transcend whomever is in power. And education is that one ecosystem that must be maintained across any political sphere. So thank you, CCCJ, for having me. Today my presentation will be about implementing STEAM education in Jamaica, lessons from the Chinese ecosystem model. Oh, where's my paper? Okay, great. Thank you. All right, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. An essential component for Jamaica's socio-economic development in the 21st century. Now, despite this significance, Jamaica's education system currently faces several challenges. These include limited integration of STEAM disciplines across all levels of education, significant resource inequities between urban and rural schools, and of course, inadequate teacher training in STEAM methodologies and interdisciplinary approaches. When doing this particular research for this lecture, I looked at 3 peer-reviewed evidence. Happy to report that one came from the British Council, National STEAM Report in 2023, which emphasized that there was an urgent need for coordinated national STEAM ecosystem. So the UK system, in its first report in 2023, is signaling that there needs to be a more coordinated national STEAM ecosystem. The recommendation is that there needs to be a policy alignment and investment in teacher development. So even though we are not a first world country, we recognize that we are having the same first world issues as the UK. Very pleased to note that Jamaica College, one of the oldest secondary institutions in Jamaica, has a STEAM program. Did you know that? Ministry of Education, JIS, why don't the people know that Jamaica College has a STEAM program? Now they have a STEAM program report for 2023-2024. What this showed was that there was increased student engagement and improved teacher feedback. They also recommended that their model be replicated in other secondary schools. It would have been nice to see secondary principal among us to determine whether or not they have accepted, they have seen, they have some knowledge. I know they have 2 robust organizations, APVP and JASP. I am very hopeful that that is pending or being implemented as we speak. And finally, Esperages Gomez, and others in 2020 found that incorporating traditional Jamaican games into early childhood education enhances STEAM learning, supports culturally relevant pedagogy as a tool for engagement. So what about this Chinese model? Lee and others in 2022 advocated for cooperative teaching and a design-based research to foster innovation. Our own ED spoke about this. It's not enough for us to consumerize the expression innovation. I don't know how many of us have the opportunity, Ministry of Education, to actually be innovators. And we can talk about that a little bit later, because what I do appreciate about the CCCJ curriculum is that even though they may have a set of guidelines or guiding principles of adapting the curriculum, the lecturers are given equal opportunities to modify according to their different learners, their abilities. So whether it's Knox in Clarendon or Manchester, or it's Brownstone in St. Anne, or it's Nakalva in Eastern Hanover, persons have the opportunity to not just slavishly look at a curriculum and say, this is how the CCCJ said we are to do it, but they look at their own unique circumstances and relatable experiences that their learners may have for them to actually implement or impart that knowledge in delivery. Hugh and others in 2021 introduced industry-linked models to B, to C, and to S. Anybody has ever heard of that concept? That's something I learned in 2017 that I think the world is seeing now about China. Everything is linked to business. Every single thing that is done on purpose through the government system is industry-linked. Business to consumer and to society for long-term sustainability. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because that's a core functionality of the ecosystem to which I'm introducing. Wang and others in 2018 spoke about the national alignment of STEAM with innovation and talent development strategies. Too often in our space, the narrative is about the learner. Very few, if I dare say, leaders in our space recognize that the learner is also the employee. And unless we develop the employee as learners, our learners who come to us for information may not adequately gain from us. So I want to see, I'm just going to do a little 1 or 2 question survey to test the temperature in the room. And I know all the leaders are my colleagues and friends, but we all lead differently. I don't know how many lecturers are here from Brownstone or Nakalva, but I know I see Case. I know Knox is here. I know the Monique is here. I have seen one person from, I think, Excelsior. Shortwood is here, and so on. So I'm going to test the temperature. How many persons have done any research outside of their college setting? It's not about your college, but you have done some research, you have presented somewhere, you have submitted something to the CCCJ, to the ministry, you have explored avenues through the Ministry of Finance, the Chinese Benevolent Society, and I could go on and on. How many of us have ever done that? Not because you need a master's degree or the next PhD or EDD. You have taken a personal interest in developing yourself and the institution you serve with. So you have decided to take on a research. Anyone? 2. All right, good. 2 is better than none. Fair? Now, how many persons believe that they are actual researchers without publishing a paper? Not talking about the 2 that showed me their hands, because obviously they believe in research. You are researchers without even publishing. Do you know that every single time you write a plan and you evaluate the set of students that you have, you're actually researching. Right? Now, my final question, how many persons have left the country and done some research that's perhaps transferable in your own space? One. I have to talk to Mr. Isaacs, you need to go out some more. Right? So we need to invite the lecturers on the study tour. Right? So I'll have to speak to Pierce and Dr. Benjamin about empowering more of our lecturers. Great. Now, back to Wang and others. We just spoke about the talent development strategies. Now, finally, and this is my favorite point, their research showed that government policy can drive systemic change. We can have all the fantastic ideas at our localized level, but if the Ministry of Education does not believe in what we are doing, it stays right there. And if the APCCJ does not believe in each other's commitment to supporting the broader vision of our government, everything will just stay right at the CCCJ. Now let's compare China with Jamaica. I know it's an unequal kind of setting, but we have a bit of similarities. I don't want to go into too much history or into politics, but one credible fact that I can share is that we were both, I don't want to use the wrong word here, we had visitors. We had some visitors from the UK in our past, right? We had some visitors. I have to remain politically correct with this microphone. Now let's talk about China. I want to say that China is one of the most mature when it comes on to the STEAM ecosystem. True or false? Why would we say that now? If you know the history since 1978, the dynamics of China has changed in the last 40 odd years. The modernization plan to open China is unmatched. And I can tell you that no amount of social media and the internet can prepare you for actually going. None. It's unmatched. Now, why is it mature? Why would we consider STEAM ecosystem in China to be mature? The industry and the government partnerships, simple. I know we talk a good talk when we talk about Dr. Paul Wilson empowers us through policy. You must have a board of study. Localized colleges, we create our board of studies. And we try to involve persons from the different industries to come and sit with us, converse with us, evaluate our documents with us, and so on and so forth. But I don't know about everyone in the room, but I can tell you from my experience, it's one of the hardest partnerships I know of. I know we'll listen to someone from the PSOIJ talk, and they talk about building relationships and so on. I don't know how purposeful it has been. I can't recall my banker, despite the millions that we have at their banks, coming to even have a conversation with me, let alone to sit with my departments, to say what is the problem at such and such a bank and what type of workers they are seeking from their own little basin in our community. We don't have that conversation, let alone a policy conversation about how we can develop any constituency. Let me go broader. So we know when we are developing a constituency, we think about the schools, we think about the community development, we think about the different industries that can thrive and help to build better lives or lifestyle for community members. I don't believe at this point in time we have an ecosystem that really feeds into our very strategic community colleges, We are strategically located across Jamaica. We do not have that involvement. We don't have that partnership. And maybe this lecture is a call. It's a call for action for greater involvement of our partners. This is something that is very strong in China, government and industry partnership. Again, there is emphasis on cooperative teaching and research-based practices. The national policies support innovation and workforce readiness, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now let's look at our own country. Thank God we are emerging. It's better than not being aware. So we're past this stage of being aware, and we're emerging, which is quite good. So we have from our ministry some STEAM initiatives, but unfortunately at this time it's limited because of our lack of coordination. And again, I thank the CCCJ for this initiative because this is signaling that we recognize these limitations and we're going to do something about it. The teacher programs that we have, they are underdeveloped in STEAM areas. I don't know how many persons recognize that scouts come here to take our developers. Do you know that? They come to our fancy hotel in New Kingston. They call us from all over the country. They call us there for free. And they're scouting talent. There's a strong partnership again with the Canadians. They all come for our developers. I think we need a strategy to retain our own. And then finally, persistent disparities in access to resources and infrastructure. And if you're a teacher, you would have heard this from the day you started Teachers College to being in any classroom. I'm hopeful that Knox will not say that they're under-resourced. Now, what are the recommendations? And let us think strategy. Let us think strategy. Remember when I spoke about Wang, 2018, Wang and others argued that STEAM education must be aligned with national innovative strategies and talent pipelines. And the only reason for that is that it needs the essence of sustainability. In China, this meant embedding STEAM into the country's broader economic and technological development goals. Now, the key components of this is my favorite topic, as I said before, policy implementation. Now, STEAM was not treated as a standalone initiative when it was brought about in China, but it was tied directly to national innovative policies. For example, anybody knows the company called Made in China? Made in China is not a tag, by the way. It's a legitimate company. So if you know Made in China, you would recognize that Made in China 2025 had some AI developmental plans that are pretty much established across the world. And I don't think I need to talk to you about AI because it's the buzz right now. Right? The ministries of education, the science and technology, and the industry collaborated to ensure that all the schools produce graduates with skills relevant to national priorities. That's not an easy feat. That's strategic planning. Talent pipeline development. STEAM education was structured to feed into higher education and industry needs. Let me say that again. The STEAM education was structured to feed into. So Dr. Paul will say it's not our jobs really. We're not promoting STEAM education in higher education. We are promoting it at the early childhood. It is essential for the conversation and the implementation to start at 0 to 5. It cannot begin at higher education. Students were guided into pathways that matched emerging sectors. China was not just talking about AI 5 years ago. In fact, when I went to China for the first time, I couldn't get onto the Wi-Fi. And I felt very slow. It took me a while to recognize what a QR code was in 2017. My bank cards were pretty much useless at that time because even if I was on the street to purchase something from a tent, I would see the natives with their phones going up to this weird-looking thing. At the time, 2017, I didn't know what was a QR code. And I simply could not get on Wi-Fi, which was available everywhere. Just didn't know how to because we were in the Western Hemisphere where QR codes were not yet popular. Now, the students, as I said, were guided into pathways that matched emerging sectors. Robotics, we are just joining the conversation. And again, it is still not everywhere. I don't know about anybody, but it's not at Knox. Where is it? Let us talk sector-wide. Tertiary, where are we? Who has robotics? Okay. Which high school has robotics? JC. What are we noticing? What is the trend here? Urban schools have robotics? Asking as a native. So who is feeding into the tertiary? Who is receiving? Heart? We need to do something. We're 10 strong, plus the ATIJ. Talent development, AI, so it's robotics, AI, green energy, and biotechnology. I want to comment on something. The other day in a community called Glencoe, in the Spalding space, it's actually the border of Clarendon and Manchester. I was passing someone's home and I got excited. I was sharing with someone in the vehicle with me. Oh, finally, there's a greenhouse my height. I remember going to China in 2017 and coming back and speaking to Mr. Daly to say to Mr. Daly, our farm manager, principal lecturer, at the time he was at Nakalva, there are no greenhouses in China, and I've been to 7 provinces, that has greenhouses taller than I am. And I'm only 5'1". Please, emphasis on the 1. I am 5'1". All the greenhouses were my height. And for the first time in Spalding, I am seeing, after the hurricane, somebody in their yard putting up a greenhouse my height. It simply means when we drive around Jamaica and we are still seeing those massive ones, we are behind. But we're not going to talk about that today, but just to share that. Talent development was seen as a strategic resource for national competitiveness. Now, China can rival the world within its own geographical space. But they were also intentional to ensure that every nook and cranny of the world, the globe, there was a Chinese town, aka Chinatown. How many persons have been to several different countries and recognize you can always find a Chinatown? I've been to one in the UK, I've been to it in Canada. They're everywhere in the US. Do you think that was coincidental? When I went to China, the banks were open on a Sunday. And when I questioned the natives about how so many persons could go to other countries and set up, they were never seen as being competitive in going there. They went there to establish their culture for greater partnerships, and they would be given grants to go and set up. So sometimes when we see the Chinese setting up in multiple areas in Jamaica, yes, they are Jamaicans now, but I don't believe that they're here for competitiveness. They have a model that has worked in their country. They continue to use it in every country that they go to because their greatest soft skill is adaptability. It's not imposition. They don't come and impose. Remember when I started this conversation, I shared with you that when I went there, I didn't like the food. And I love Chinese food. But my tongue is just Western. And so, because Chinese are so great at adapting, they adapted to our spices, our tongues, and they reinvented their cultural aspect into our culture. That's a strategy that is unmatched. I know now I'm seeing K-towns developing and so on, but China is still unmatched. Third, industry, academia, government collaboration. Universities, schools, and industries co-designed curricula and research projects. That's a model we saw in Canada. Ms. Horton, when we went to Canada, that was heavy in Canada. That's a model that the Canadians were using. We came back. We were bubbling. We wanted the ministry to really look at how we could have the government funding and policy support to strengthen this model. COVID came in 2020. I know our organization is doing another study tour, and I realize the JT has rallied onto that. We went to Singapore last year. This year we're going to Finland. But I am a little bit short and losing patience. We do these tours, we do the research, we have the experience in industry, but we continue to talk about it. And I feel that a lot of us are getting weary because the conversation cannot continue for so long. Too many of us have passed 2 decades in the system already. At this point, if I were in the military, I could apply for retirement. I'm almost the age of the CCCJ in terms of my tenure. I've been doing this for a long time. Colleagues, another call for action. Enough of the reports when we go abroad. Enough of the research. We applaud the JTA and the Ministry of Education for funding research. But we are scholars and practitioners, and we need to implement. We are the experts, and we know what is needed. We need to implement. So we have the government provided funding and policy support, while industries offered internships, labs, and real-world problems. That's a challenge. I don't know if it is that our industry partners do not recognize the quality standards that we have in our training facilities. There was a time we knew not of ISO 9001, 2015. Only industries would have that plastered somewhere on a billboard at their entrance. Now all the colleges, may not be all, but everyone is taking a step to the formal registration through JTech. Others of us are going on to quality management. I do believe the ministry is coming on board to creating its own quality unit. But what I can tell you, I believe there is a trust factor at work. It is not good enough for Grace Kennedy to accept us to do a tour of their facility. We want the internships in the labs. If you find that you are sustaining whatever vision you have for your organizations, this is another call for the industry. Involve us. Can you build us a lab so we can train your future workers? Right? That's where we want to go. Now, what did this create? It created a feedback loop. It cannot be we go on the tours, we come, we give the lecture, we give the report, we don't hear back in a purposeful way from our own administration, we don't hear from the partners. There is no feedback loop that is purposeful to guide how we evolve. And that's a call for action that we need. Innovation, or buzzword. The innovation ecosystem. STEAM hubs. Persons like to think that the world is moving fast, and it is. But when you're in the Western culture, it really isn't. It's moving very, very slow. When I think about going abroad nowadays, and I, unfortunately, don't have a US account, so sometimes it makes no sense for me to download some app. So when I want to use Uber, I ask my children. Anywhere I am, and persons who travel with me know when we get lost, right, Miss Horton? We call Diana. And said, Diana, can you call us an Uber, please? And the like. Because we older folks, back then, I'm not talking about 2026. So we older folks, when we travel to the States, we usually travel with cash. Now we move on to cards, so no longer immigration officers don't ask you how much money do you have with you for this trip. No, we walk cashless. However, you don't have to go outside. If it's winter, you order Uber Eats and the like, and so on and so forth. Now, when you go to China, everything is 10 times faster. Literally. Principal and I visited a tech building. I don't remember the name. And he saw something that he liked and he wanted to procure for his school at the time. I don't think it was laptops. I think it was something much smaller. Projectors, mini projectors. Saw them dirt cheap. But when we went to that space, it was the size of this table, the little space. All the little things. You're in like a mall, but it was like a tech building. And so it wasn't a fancy mall. It was just strictly electronics. And the gentleman said to him, I'd like 10. And he said, I only have one now. Make a deposit and come back. So, we start looking at each other. He said to me, may I go try, may I go give him my money and see what happens. And he told him, 1 hour. We look at each other again. And he started, some of them know basic English, and he explained that he's going to the factory. And we started peering outside because we were wondering, we didn't see anything that resembled a factory. But fast forward to now that China is completely opened after COVID, we recognize that hubs are designed in a particular diameter. So when we speak about a factory in Jamaica, we're thinking about one particular building. When we speak about a factory in China, we speak about a cluster. So one building may have supply for one particular thing out of 1,000. But if there's a big order to be made, it can be done in hours and not weeks. Because everybody cooperates. It's no secret. There's no trade secret. In fact, if you're investing in China, you come with your secret, you think you're giving them something. No, you're not. You're only specifying your design. We have no hubs here. I know Jamaica went above and beyond and created special economic zones. China has had that since 1978. It has worked. It has worked beautifully. I know we have it labeled here. But I'd love for someone to share with me in a very practical way how it really works. And we're all Jamaican citizens, right? Can anyone share with me how does a special economic zone work, and how would we be able to articulate that to our learners who are going into the industry tomorrow? How does it work in Jamaica? Because it shouldn't have been a secret. Anybody can tell me? Hospitality, can you tell me? Anybody from hospitality? Case, anybody from agriculture? Who can share with me one example of a special economic zone and how it works so that we can lecture about it and we can ensure that our learners are coming future ready? Right, Ms. Thompson? Future ready. Are they future ready? What is a special economic zone? What is it? We are in the beautiful is this St. Andrew or are we in Kingston? Anybody? This is St. Andrew. Good. St. Andrew. Right? So we're in St. Andrew. Where is our special economic zone in St. Andrew? None? New Kingston is a special, so it's a business hub? Would we want to say that New Kingston is a business hub? So we'll find the tech people there? What can we purchase there? We need a purposeful response to this. Special economic zones. That is an ecosystem model that came out of China. We started it here. Have we fully implemented it? Because us technocrats should be able to have it roll off our tongues. So when our future-proof, our future-ready students are going out, it's not foreign to them. There is a gap, an idea for research. So the innovation zone, everybody has been watching the internet with Shenzhen. You see all the TikTokers going down to Shenzhen and showing how beautiful it is and how fast it is and so on. We don't know about Shenzhen. Electronic hub for the world. Next trip should be there. All right, so there are 2 economic zones that are known to the world. Shenzhen is one. It's a whole province unto itself. And of course, the Beijing tech parks. Now, how did China do this? Students were exposed early to entrepreneurship, patents, and applied research. Very early. When we did the tours of schools, we did all levels, early childhood, and first of all, the models that we have here, when you see an early childhood institution, you thought it was UE. It's incredible. So from a very early age, you will notice that students are able to develop their own patents. They understand the nuances of entrepreneurship. And I know we have that model here as well. I don't know if we have it, Mrs. Degu, at the early childhood level. But I know that we do have entrepreneurship embedded, especially in the Heart Trust NSTA curricula and ours. The ecosystem encouraged 2 things. And these are the 2 things that we don't have because we're coming out of a particular dark period where we believe in rote learning. The ecosystem encouraged creativity and technical skill, not rote learning. So there's a practice for us. Application for Jamaica. Again, coming back to this. Policy, policy, policy. Align STEAM with Vision 2030. I don't think it's too late. Remember that we are past the awareness stage and we are now at the emerging stage. So we have a little bit of time. So for more policy integration, we can align STEAM with Vision 2030, Jamaica, and of course we don't leave out our brothers and sisters in the region. So our CARICOM innovation agendas. Talent pipeline. Focus on sectors where Jamaica has comparative advantage. For example, our tourism, technology, renewable energy, agriculture, innovation, and creative industries. Our collaboration, build tri-sector partnerships. Now, I was very disappointed when I came this morning and I heard that our minister, Wheatley, Dr. Wheatley, would not be present. It is time now we actually do some genuine partnerships across ministries. And I was really looking forward to seeing our minister. So, tri-sector, not just dealing with our own powerhouse of a ministry. We want to have tri-sector partnerships with the Ministry of Education. Of course, you know, Heart Trust is back in our ministry. Industries like JPS, Digicel, and Grace Kennedy. Innovation ecosystems, establish STEAM hubs in community colleges, linked to local industries and innovation centers. Why does this matter? This will ensure STEAM is not just an educational fad, but a driver of national development. This will create a sustainable workforce pipeline aligned with Jamaica's economic priorities. This will also build resilience by embedding innovation into education, preparing students for global competitiveness. Now for implementation roadmap. What are our expected outcomes? We expect through this initiative that there will be increased student innovation, creativity, and of course, employability. There should be stronger collaboration between academia and industry. And finally, a sustainable, culturally grounded STEAM ecosystem that supports national development. And finally, before I leave the space, thank you. STEAM education is a transformative force for Jamaica's future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramjeet, for that powerful and also thought-provoking presentation. We appreciate the experiences that you've shared and how that model can be applied to our Jamaican context. Please help me again to express our gratitude for sharing same. At this time, I will now be opening the floor for questions and comments on the presentation. So while you didn't get much time to interact, I saw the interaction. This space is a safe space that you can interact, and I'm sure that Dr. Ramjeet is willing and able to answer your questions. So once you raise your hand and the microphone is in your hand, please identify yourself and your institution, please. Any questions? All right, there's a hand to the left. Remember to state your name and institution.
Good afternoon, or is it still morning? It's
still morning.
Good morning, colleagues. And I just want to say thanks to Dr. Ramjeet for a wonderful presentation. I learned so much. My name is Mark Constable. I am the STEM coach at Crystal House, Jamaica. What I'm finding is in my journey so far in terms of STEAM integration and development at Crystal House as a secondary institution is that I have to be finding creative ways to have teachers being developed to practice STEAM integration across all subjects. And I'm wondering if this is a direction where teachers' colleges would specifically train teachers to be able to teach, and this is all in all subjects now, to be able to teach using the STEAM methodology. And perhaps those teachers could be remunerated at a much higher rate and so forth.
Mr. Constable, good question and thoughtful comment as well. What I can tell you is that I don't have the answers for the structuring or the restructuring of teachers' colleges. That's a different conversation. What I can tell you is that I had a wonderful experience last year in July, I believe. The JTA went on a study tour in Singapore. One of the findings that we reported to the permanent secretary on was the model used there for capacity building, or in their expression, professional development. Professional development was a responsibility of the country. It wasn't left to individual schools to create their own agenda and training. There was a defined location. It essentially was a school or a college setting. It had its own administration. And what that did was ensure uniformity of any national development that they needed for teachers. So developing a teacher continually or continuously was the national priority. It was not a standalone. So for example, if your institution decided to create what my institution has, which is a PD plan, we use scores from appraisals as well as gaps in practice to develop what training needs we want for our own teachers. That is not good for Brownstown Community College, because it would then mean that Knox Community College is able to do X, but it is not already replicated or cannot be replicated at a Brownstown Community College. So I would call for a national priority in this regard, not just teacher training development, where it should also be, but what about those persons like myself who will remain in the system for another 20 years? Because when you start at 21 and there's no mandate for you to upgrade, continue your professional development, then everything is up in the air. So it would be good if at a national level we could create our own faculty that treats with any national development of our teachers, and not just teachers entering the system, but teachers already in the system. I hope that helps. Okay. That's it.
Are you hearing me? Okay. All right, good day. So we loved your presentation, but there are a few questions that we have. Now, you talked about linking everything to, I'm Lamar
Just
Kwan.
before you, just to interject, can you just state who you are and where you're from?
Hi, I'm Lamar Quant, math lecturer at Charlotte Teachers College. Also was responsible for research and STEM. So you mentioned many very good frameworks, linking everything to business, ensuring, talking about how the greenhouses are your height and all these lovely frameworks and these reports that you did. So the question is, even though we can't do it on the national basis, can we get access to your reports so if we want to launch these frameworks in our department, we have a launching point? Because we love your ideas, but what is the practical application and how do we start in our department? Because if we start in our department, we're touching all the high schools across the island because we are a teachers' college.
It is mandatory. Thank you. Mr. Wong, you said? What? White?
Quant.
Great. Hoyt. I'm sorry. Great. It would be good, Dr. Powell Wilson, I know we have established at the council a research unit. What we don't have in our setting is a repository. So what people generally do, I don't know for persons who have a doctorate in the space or have a master's degree, sometimes when you're publishing on behalf of your institution, not the one you work at, the one that is giving you or issuing your degree, they ask if you want to publish for free or have your research sold online. I chose to send mine for free. What the ministry requires of us when we go on study tours or do any research is that we share it. What we don't have is a single repository for us to share, so persons can not necessarily use any login or anything like that, but to access and determine what is useful to them. So it is worth us exploring, especially at the council, because we do have the research department that can handle that. And the ministry may want to consider that, because across the breadth and depth of Jamaica, there are so many innovators. There are so many things happening, but we can't think of a single space where we can access something in a creative, common way. So good point. Thank you. But I'm available to share my email, and you can share yours. I can share my list of references too, as well as any research that we have. Once persons give permission that they want to share. I don't know who wants to do a research and not share. The whole idea, but thank you.
Yes, well, this is the final question.
Good morning. Paul Morris, Shorter Teachers College, Geography, History, and Social Studies Department. My question relates to policy. I think it's the quality education circles that exist, right? And listening to your presentation, it sort of had me thinking about how policies could help to develop the ecosystem from outside, educational side, in partnership with, of course, industry. To what extent CCCJ, yes, that means this is a CCCJ conference. To what extent have you explored or thought about utilizing this facility, and also look at the possibility of creating policies so that some of these circles and networks and so on can become more entrenched as pillars for supporting the ecosystem that we think would benefit us in the next 30, 50 years as a country through education?
Thank you for that, Mr. Morris. No, I cannot answer on behalf of the council. However, remember that the council is an agent or agency of the Ministry of Education. What is unique about how we operate in our own ecosystem is that every member institution has its own governance framework. And under its respective governance framework, then we determine the policy directives. So we take instructions from our board. Now, I believe that the Ministry of Education, in its broadest frame, can always introduce policies. So it depends on the type of system that you're from. So, for example, I know for the teachers' colleges of Jamaica, they have their own ecosystem. We partner at times and we become a TIJ, right? So that's when the community colleges, multidisciplinaries, and the polytechnics come together, we merge as one. So that's a public higher education institution space. Now we want to think about aligning and collaborating with the quality education circles. We don't have that. QECs, we don't have that in our space. Maybe that's a framework that we need to adopt, but we don't have that. We just have our two associations. When we merge together, we are one. But policy frameworks development is a little bit difficult to be singular, because it depends on who has the authority for ratification and implementation. So the broader conversation can be had. We do have a quarterly meeting with our permanent secretary. We have also our monthly, if not twice per quarter, meeting with our tertiary sector. So I believe that is a matter that can be raised, and even among us at the APCCJ level. But I can't give a response on behalf of the council at this time. But point taken, thank you so much. Audience, you have been well. I thank you so much for indulging me. Have a wonderful rest of symposium. All the best.
Thank you so much for those engaging questions and responses. At this time, we'll be taking a short coffee break, allowing us to just refresh ourselves, and we will gather here 15 minutes later. You may refresh yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reconvene, I'd like to invite Mr. Carlisle Brown to make a presentation to our guest speaker, our keynote speaker, Dr. Devya Ramjeet.
Good morning. Well, good morning, everyone. I thought it was the afternoon already, but Dr. Devya Ramjeet, on behalf of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica, we would like to say a heartfelt thank you. Yeah, you can stand there. We'd like to say a heartfelt thank you in bringing some knowledge to us, to this focus group, to pretty much deduce the fact that the level of education, the level of STEAM, not only starts at the tertiary level, but that of the early childhood level. So the fact that this presentation was so insightful, it really means a lot to us, Dr. Ramjeet. And from the CCCJ, once again, we'd like to say thank you so much. Thanks again, Dr. Ramjeet.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Brown. At this time, I just invite you to sit back and enjoy a creative presentation from the Excelsior Community College Performing Arts Group. Make them welcome, please. Thank you. Or make him welcome.
I used to be so broken, lost, empty. A heart with no beat, a singer with no song to sing. So I know the feeling, the silence is deafening. But in your pain lies a blessing, a sweet and sour victory. So keep walking, 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 though it seems so far. No matter who you are, see there's one thing that I know. Life, it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, 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 better. It's alright, dry your eyes, send a prayer to the sky. I know it's hard to find, but you must believe that it gets better. Listen to me. I know you're scared, your heart's bleeding. But what are you gonna do now? I think it's time you break free and keep walking, 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 though it seems so far. No, it doesn't really matter who you are. See, there's one thing that I know. bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, better, better. Yeah, life it can't leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, better. Oh, it gets better, better, so much better. It gets better if you only believe. So much better.
Thank you so much for that wonderful performance. A timely reminder that creativity is central to STEAM. In the community college. And just in case you did not know that the CCCJ has an Associate of Arts degree in Performing Arts. And so therefore, for the principals who are here, if you have not yet applied to do that program, please ensure that you share same in due order. All right, let's give him another hand. We now move on to the next presenter who will be coming to us. That is Dr. Maurice Smith, University Registrar and Chief Administrator of the University of the West Indies. He will be making a presentation on creating solutions and driving change. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be asking Miss Rashida Edmond to come and introduce him to us at this time.
I am standing on the protocol that has been established. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good morning, sorry. Dr. Maurice Smith. Maurice D. Smith received his professional training at the Michael University College in Kingston, Jamaica. Having earned undergraduate and graduate degrees with honors from both Northern Caribbean University and the Nova Southeastern University, respectively. He is a Jamaica 2010 Fulbright Scholar who has read for a Doctor of Education with high commendation in educational leadership and policy from Howard University. Dr. Smith is credited with the establishment of Belmont Academy, Jamaica's first center of excellence, having been previously engaged as a principal director of the National College for Educational Leadership, NCEL. He has in 2015 appointed permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, Youth and the Information. Between 2017 and 2019, Dr. Smith was engaged as an international educational consultant to the World Bank, UNESCO, and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, where he provided policy and technical advice to governments across Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. He currently serves as University Registrar and Chief Administrative Officer of the University of the West Indies, with its almost 50,000 students spread across 5 campuses and 17 countries in the Caribbean. He is chair of the board of New Covenant Bible Institute of the Caribbean, former chair of the All-American Institute of Medical Sciences, and a member of the board of directors, Youth Reaching Youth. Dr. Smith, who is a certified performance coach and a Commonwealth professional fellow in education, frequently addresses local and international conferences on matters related to educational leadership. He is an author, well-sought-after motivational speaker, strategist, and a recipient of several awards, chief of which are the Governor General's Achievement Award 2019 and the 2016 Prime Minister's Medal of Appreciation for Service in Education. He is also Justice of the Peace for the Parish of Kingston. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Dr. Maurice Smith.
Mr. Chairman, our Executive Director, ladies and gentlemen, all good morning. Well, we're on the cusp, so let me say good afternoon. Let me wish for you all the very best for 2026. It's good to see each of you some familiar faces. And yesterday I happened to have been elsewhere and said to the persons there that when we say it's good to see each other, it really is not a cliche. I don't know how many of you saw the news item yesterday where this person went to church on Sunday and died in the building. So let's not take it for granted. It's already the end of January and 2026 is racing away. Thank you for the invitation to share with you today. You have positioned me at precarious place in the day. I'm standing in between this presentation and lunch, and I have been assigned 30 minutes, which I think is a little bit too much time, but that's okay. I never not accept an invitation from the CCCJ. I have been asked to do a pep talk, a motivational speech, if you will, on the theme creating solutions and driving change. Now, the thought crossed in my mind as to who are better drivers, women or men. I will leave that as a rhetorical question, primarily because there are more women in the room, I think, than men. Statistics, though, say that women are deemed to be better drivers only because they are involved in less fatal accidents. It's interesting to see a woman reverse. Let me leave that alone. Last week, Monday, I decided to attend the funeral of two colleagues of mine who had lost their dad a few weeks ago. It seems to me that death is all around, and my address is not going to be morbid, but only last week in Trinidad, one of my CIOs, Chief Information Officers, lost his mom. And given their religion, she was buried 2 days after. And he said to me, ordinarily in their religion, they would bury their dead the day after within 24 hours of death. So much so that they have their own pathologists so that they're able to conduct their own autopsies, etc., etc., etc. And we made a big joke because in Jamaica, we wait for 6-8 weeks because everyone has to come from abroad. And if treating with the death is not torture enough, you have to feed all the people who visit you, most of whom you don't know. And I often wonder, don't we have this thing wrong? Aren't you supposed to take something with you to the home of the person who has died? But that's not our culture, that's not our practice in Jamaica. We go expecting to be fed and entertained, and it's so costly to feed Jamaicans. I deliberately didn't look at what was offered today on the table because, you know, Jamaicans, we have to give them curry goat and all sorts of things. It's remarkable to me, the rites and rituals that surround death in Jamaica. So I opted to go with my colleagues. Now, ordinarily, I would drive myself or I would be driven. And I decided, let me go on the bus this time. So I went in and sat at the back of the bus. I'm not sure I have recovered. It was one of my most horrific experiences in life. I had to say to the driver, my God, I'm sitting in the back of the bus. Because every bump I felt, I was shaken, I was thrown, I was rocked, I was tossed all about. It was horrible. But sitting in the back of the bus gave me an opportunity to observe a lot of things. You know, it's good to see your co-workers in different environments, because I think they forgot that I was at the back of the bus. So I saw people in their natural state. It's good to see your students and your administrators and your colleagues in their natural state. No pretense, no electing to behave a particular way because you're there. When stuff happens, the raw thoughts come through their mouths and you see what's really in their heart. And I sat there and I was aghast. I was intrigued. At one point, I opened my eyes and I looked intensely at the persons that were sitting in front of me on the bus. There were 11 of us. And I had the whole road to myself. And I simply listened and observed. We left at 8:30 to make our way to Gale, Russell Hall, Derry. There were about 3 or 4 places I was told we were going. I didn't know where we were going. You know, I knew how to get to Guys Hill. And so I said, you know, I can get to Guys Hill. So we went on the highway, exited the highway and made our way through Linstead up to Guys Hill. And we were comfortable because someone had heard that the registrar knew how to get to Guys Hill. Interestingly, the driver didn't know where he was going. And I'm reminding you, I was sitting in the back of the bus. It is easy to miss your destination when complacency sets in. When driving for change, it's easy to miss where you are going when you think you know where you're going. And so we got to Guys Hill and we exited. We got to Guys Hill and we got to the highway and we exited and we made our way to Guys Hill. And there were many questions asked, who is the member of parliament for this area? Because the roads were just horrendous. And I said, well, don't get into that, because if the roads were important to the people, they would have not voted how they voted because the member of parliament was returned. So let's not have that discussion. Those things are not important to Jamaicans. What's important to Jamaica is you can fill their belly with curry goat. That's what's important to you. So let's not talk about those things. By the way, I note the silence in the room. That's fine. So we set out to go to Guys Hill. And when we got to Guys Hill, we simply realized that we were lost. Remember, we left out thinking we're going to Gale. Somebody said Derry. Somebody said Russell Hall. It was a Seventh-day Adventist church, and we had commented that we were, in fact, when one of my co-workers called me, I said, oh, no, man, we'll get there by 9:45. We're going to be early. We didn't get there until 12 o'clock. because we got lost about 4 or 5 times. I'm not exaggerating. We got lost about 4 or 5 times. And so at one point, someone pulled out their phone and said, let me Google this thing. Let me map this thing. But on the map, every time we got to a road that on the map suggested that we turn left, by the time we got there, the road disappeared, so there was no left. You must leave destination with an objective in mind. If we're talking about driving change and creating solutions, the question I must ask you is, what is your objective? Regrettably and unfortunately, colleagues, many of us don't know the answer to that question. What are you trying to achieve? Where are you going? What's your destination? How do you plan to get there? What is your purpose in life? We cannot drive change on the outside if we are unable to determine and manage change on the inside. This thing about finding and generating solutions is not only an extrinsic activity, it is also an intrinsic one. The only way we can take people to the destination is if we ourselves know where we are going and how to get there. And can I dare suggest that we cannot take people to a point to which we have never been? We cannot drive change and create solutions if we ourselves are not change makers or solution-oriented in our thinking. And you have those people on your staff, maybe some of you are here today, whenever you have a suggestion to make, they first exclaim, no, it can't work. How you know it can't work if you've never tried it? And you know the real staff meeting takes place after the staff meeting. And you know the real staff meeting takes place on your cell phone. Because some people never have anything good to say. But you cannot drive change and create a solution if you do not know what your objective is. And I want to ask you today, what is your purpose in life? What influences your decision making? Why were you born? What were you put on this earth to do? Why did your mother meet your father? Why was that zygote created? Why did you not die? Why were you not aborted? What is the reason for your existence? That if you don't do this thing, it will not get done because this is your mission, your purpose in life. What is your objective? What added value are you going to be injecting in the lives of the people in the ecosystem that you serve? Why are you here? What is your objective? When you sit and you think, how do you envisage yourself in the future? What is it that you do that when you do it, it gets well done? So much so that it brings you joy that your salary can't. Because if you're only working for your salary, well, you can't only work for your salary. If you're only working for your salary, you are a man and a woman most miserable because truth be told, your salary is done even before you get it. What keeps you up in the morning? What excites you? What gives you that thrill? What is it that when you do, someone affirms and says, yes, you have impacted me? What is your purpose in life? Lots of people don't know the answer to that question. Is it possible that you are teaching young people when you yourselves need to be taught? Is it possible that you are nurturing careers of thousands of young people when you yourself do not even know what career you ought to be in? What gifting is inside of you that you have not yet incubated? What potential are you sitting on? What is your objective? So we set out to get to Russell Hall, Gale, Derry, and we just drove along. But not only did we have an objective in mind, there were many perspectives that were shared because people started commenting, oh, let's ask that one. And we got to a particular point where we looked at a man and somebody said, him not look like him, no. And it's interesting what perceptions we form of people by virtue of how they look. There are colleagues on our campuses and students in our classrooms that we think aren't getting anything from us, when in fact they are. We have these preconceived ideas about people even before giving them an opportunity to demonstrate who they are at the core.
Somebody wanted to stop at the bathroom. In fact, many people wanted to stop at the bathroom. When we got to the police station in Gale, somebody said, oh no, that police station looked like it run down. The bathroom is not in good condition. All sorts of comments were made, and everybody had an idea. Could all the ideas work? No. At some point in time, a decision had to be made. And I want to say to us, ladies and gentlemen, that you are traveling in a vehicle in life and there is noise around you. And you have got to learn how to block out the noise and focus on your objective. Some people are dying for you to get out of the jobs that you're in. Some people are waiting for you to die. Some people are waiting for you to retire. Some people are waiting for you to resign. And they think that when you go, the opportunity will be given to them. Not everyone who smiles with you means you're good. Not everyone who frowns with you means you're bad. Perspective. Everyone has a different perspective, and all perspectives must contend, but not all perspectives will create the change that we need. And as leaders in STEAM in your institutions, you've got to learn how to build consensus and determine the way forward, because at the end of the day, there can only be one institutional vision. If your vision doesn't line up with your agency or your organization, then the best thing for you to do is go. Because when you think that some people are pillars holding up the organization, you later discover they are caterpillars eating up the foundation of the organization. And there are some people in your lives that are not making you better off. So when you shall have left today's symposium, you have to do some assessment, Who are the building blocks? What perspectives are being given you? What words are being spoken over you? What declarations are being made about you that accord with who you are or that tear you apart at the core? What are the perspectives that you're listening to? We stopped at a shop. Some persons bought corn. Some persons bought buns, some persons bought water. And you always have this person on the bus who takes some food from home. Oh, that has never happened to you? When you're traveling on a bus, Principal Horton, and somebody takes some Sunday rice, and when they open it up, the whole bus, that has never, thank God. Because there are some odors, some aromas in your life that are not constructive for you, but you have to learn how to sift. You have to learn how to navigate the spaces. You have to learn how to manipulate the perspectives, because not all perspectives will get you to your destination. So we left regional with an objective. There were many perspectives that contended, but then at one point, having been lost about 3 times, we said to ourselves, we must turn at this point. And so we stopped again and asked someone. And they say, yeah, man, just turn here. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, it was a steep hill, a ravine. And we went down some rugged roads. And when we looked, the bus hit so many times on the road that we wondered whether or not the undercarriage had been damaged. But when we got to a point where we turned right, alas, we arrived at the main road and ended up at our destination late. But we made it. Just in time for our presentation to be made. Can I say to you that you have an objective? Sometimes there are different perspectives, but at some point in your lives, you've got to determine the corrective. Was I correct in accepting this job? Was I correct in doing this program? Was I correct in electing to follow this pathway? It's never too late for a shower of rain, and you may have to stop and change your mind and make a different decision and go in another direction. It will get you to your destination. And, it's better to be late than to be absent. We arrived at 12 o'clock. We sat in the church. We made our tribute, and we enjoyed ourselves for what it was worth for the 2 hours. It was the funeral was at a Seventh-day Adventist church, and we sat there for about 2 hours and enjoyed the celebration of life. But the point is, we had to correct our wrong action because we had to accept the fact that we had made a wrong decision. Now, I know, because I'm a teacher myself, that we want our students to think that we have gotten it right. We have not always gotten it right. When we make mistakes, we have to say to our students, I did wrong by you, I'm sorry. I said something I ought not to have said. I did something I ought not to have done. And it's interesting to me when you look at the dynamics in organizations, you know, when some people are leading, they want everybody to stand at attention. But when other people are leading, you don't give them the same kind of cooperation that you would want per adventure you're leading. But what you give is what you get. And if you look at the sociology of sheep, the little sheep do not follow the shepherd. The little sheep follow the older sheep. So when people join your staff, be careful of what you say. You see that one over there? Be careful of so. Most of the times, the individual who is warning people is the person about whom he or she should be warned. We all make mistakes. None of us is perfect. And some students end up in your classrooms doing some programs that are outside of their purpose. And that's okay. It's our job to point them in the right direction. Because truth be told, many of us had to be pointed in the right direction as well. This thing is not only about the destination, it's also about driving there. So as you come to the symposium today and as you hear different perspectives and as you get new knowledge, you have to assess and determine what changes must I effect for myself. How am I going to be different? Because if I am not different, I cannot assist anyone else in becoming different. If I can't manage myself, I can't assist anyone in managing change. If I can't create solutions for myself, I can't assist anyone for creating solutions for themselves either. And the only way for the system to be better is if the institutions that make up the system are better. And the only way for the institutions to be better is if the individuals who function in those institutions are themselves better. Creating solutions, driving change. Remember, you need an objective. Remember, you have to manage your perspectives. And at some point in time, you have to engage the right corrective. I wish for you a great symposium. But truth be told, I wish for you a greater life. May your decisions, may your curriculum, may your instruction, may your assessment, may your engagement with your students and your colleagues be such that we can invest in people and help them to become their best selves. That's the only way that this little piece of rock will change. And you know, based on what's happening in the world, you know, you kind of bet you're staying in Jamaica still. Yeah? I was thinking about this the other day, that nearly everyone that I know, that we were elsewhere celebrating our friend's 50th birthday. And I looked at all of them and I thought about it. And you know, nearly everyone that I know that would have migrated when I was a child, if I were to do a rough comparison, one could easily conclude that sometimes it's better you stay in Jamaica. I mean, I tell you, I have an ambition and I go nowhere else. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you make sure you are on the path that you were designed and created to be on. Make sure that at the end of the day, you are your best you. I came across this thing that I was reading the other day and I figured I'd share it with you. Irreplaceable. The universe took its time on you, crafted you to offer the world something different from everyone else. And when you doubt how you were created, you doubt an energy that's greater than us both. You are created for a reason. Know your objective, manage your perspectives, engage the corrective. Thank you.
Dr. Smith, thank you so much for that compelling as well as a practical perspective on how we create solutions and drive change. There's one thing that I'd like to just underscore is that, you know, from your presentation, that not all perspective will get you to your destination. and that the change that you seek to drive, it must be from within before that change can happen on the outside. And it's germane that we understand and know our purpose. All right, I believe we have some time for some question and answers, because I'm sure there are persons here who would like to feed some questions to Dr. Smith as the standing order that you indicate who you are and where you're from. You can go ahead now by raising your hands. It could be a comment. All right, there's a hand here.
Thank you. Dr. Smith, I want to thank you so much for your inspiring presentation. I think you have a number of us thinking deeply, and that's probably the reason for the quiet at this time. You have allowed me to reflect, and I'm thinking that what you said really hit the right chords. But could you share with us, if it is that you discover that you are at the wrong place and you need to make a change, how do you go about it without making it appear as if the place is the problem?
Principal, you know, truth be told, if you find yourself in that position in very many places, the place could be the problem. The place could be the problem. But if you find yourself repeatedly in that position, then the common factor is you. And one of the things we have to do is to be honest with ourselves. Now, if we go to the doctor and we give the doctor the wrong information, the diagnosis is going to be ill-advised and the treatment is going to be ineffective. And so it behoves us to be honest. Now, that is a virtue that really has to be nurtured and matured. We get upset when people tell us the truth, but most times people aren't telling us something that we do not already know within. So it requires a certain level of vulnerability to say that we can learn from anyone and that the perspectives are different, but you have to check in with yourself to see what is it that I need to do differently. So it requires introspection, it requires meditation, it requires reflection, it requires honesty. So if you get to that point, one of the things I encourage people to do is to get the thoughts out of your head and to get a sheet of paper and write it down. What are the pros, what are the cons? Face the reality, make the research, get all the information you can and determine your plan of action. But it starts with that willingness to be true to yourself, to thine own self be true. It starts with that vulnerability to say that I am not where I ought to be or I'm not who I was designed to be. And the only way to become better is to accept the truth and start with yourself. So that's how I would respond to that. Great. Thank you.
Do we have another question or comment?
Thank you very much, Doc. Insightful words. My question is, how do you differentiate between the noise and when you perhaps need to do some introspection and become vulnerable and all of that stuff?
How do you differentiate between the noise?
Yes, this is just noise, and this is detracting from my objective. And then, maybe somebody is actually pointing me at something that is useful and I need to change in this area.
That's a great question. It's an art. It's trial and error. Because people could just be wasting words, but somewhere in the wastage of words could be a truth that resonates with you, and so you have to trust your gut. Can I use this word? It's a spiritual process. It's a deeply personal issue. I can't answer that question except to say, because there's no one way or right way. You have to trust your gut. You have to listen to yourself. You have to pay attention to the signs. You have to know whether or not this is just rubbish or there is some deeply hidden truth, some gem that could guide you. And so it requires a lot of me time, a lot of personal time, a lot of private time, and lots of us don't like spending time alone. It's good for us. I say to people, I love flying. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm on a plane every 2-3 weeks because when I'm flying, that's when it's quiet and I can think deeply. I wake up in the morning, 4:30, and I'm just there because that's when I process things best. So it requires that solitude for you to, I don't know how else to put it, for your soul to be cleansed. I don't know how else to say it, but for you to do some deep introspection to say, what's my destiny? What am I supposed to do? That still small voice to point you. And you can know when that voice is resonating, connecting with the other voices, or it's distracting you, but only you can know. So if you sometimes come off the cell phone, let me pause there. Come off the cell phone. Stop talking with everyone and everybody. Stop telling the whole public your business. Stop posting. Spend more time thinking, praying. Can I use that word? Reflecting, meditating, connecting. You will hear. You will be able to decipher. You will know those deceptors and those directors. So it comes out of your maturing quietly, growing silently, nurturing that salient, still voice. And you'll know. When you know, you know. You want to use this?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Aisha Bolt, CCCJ. My question is, right, I am a marketing and communications specialist expert, and working in the education space. Of course, I would have gone to school, so been through the system in that way. And I see where we definitely can make an impact in education, but as a youngish person in the education space, I would want you to offer some advice, because honestly, I do see where a lot of persons have been in the space trying to make an impact for years. What would you say to me at this point
she's gonna get me in
time?
She's going to get me in trouble now. You know, Jamaica isn't a serious place.
I agree.
At least not about education. Because we say to people, we encourage critical thinking, and when people think critically, they're discarded. And so Jamaica, so, you know, Jamaica is, I think...
Yeah, man, speak candidly, because that is what I would
GIS is here. But what else can they do? So, yeah, I think we are bereft of ideas. and I think we're even more bereft of will. There are some systemic changes that will deliver us a better, different education system, but we aren't willing to make those decisions. No one is willing to bell the cat. So I think young people need to be bold. They need to be self-assured in who they are, to trust their God-given giftings and abilities, to not depend entirely on your networks to get you to where you want to go and who knows who, to believe that there is meritocracy, that if you follow your purpose, your gift will make room for you. Remember that the world is not the four corners of this country. And if most times kings and queens are not honored in their own spaces. And sometimes you have to be thrown out of the nest in order to learn how to fly. You can fly to the four corners of the earth and create your own niche. But again, it requires your distilling, deciphering, determining what your call is. So because you are youngish, if you have a plan for yourself, a vision in mind and a goal in mind and a plan in terms of how to get there, once you do not restrict yourself or limit yourself, even if this space does not give you the validation you deserve, then believe that the other spaces will do that.
And then I'm guessing, hopefully, I'll still be able to make an impact here.
The sun does not go around each day wishing it makes an impact.
That's true.
It just shines.
I
So
agree. Thank you.
just be who you were designed to be.
Testing. I know I'm moderator, but I too have a question. In the space that we're in, there's a whole thrust about being innovative. How do we ensure that this just isn't a buzzword and it becomes something that leaders within their own right are held accountable for?
So what are your KPIs? What are your targets? How do you demonstrate the ability to be innovative? What administrative ingenious determinations are you coming up with? So I would say in my own space, I require, in fact, I let them go. Because at the end of the day, there's only one leader. So if leaders, or when leaders shine, I introduced last year, August, a deputy university registrar, and decided that this year, for the graduations, I'm not going to preside over one of the ceremonies because I wanted her to. And I turned up and sat in the audience and felt good that my protege was on the platform doing her thing, and someone who wasn't as excited about that asked me, why did I do that? And I said, why not? She's up there. That's where she ought to be. And where I sit does not determine my role. So whether I sit on that chair or that chair, I'm still carrying out the function. So I'm saying leaders should recognize that people have giftings and should create the environment for people to shine. So if you want to innovate, I say to you, let's have a conversation. Let's determine what our goals are, what our targets are, what KPIs, and I'll give you the latitude, the guidance, of course, but I'll give you the freedom to do just that. And when you shall have achieved your targets, I'll be the first one out there to celebrate. Because if you succeed, or when you succeed, I succeed. And when you do not miss your targets, I'm also missing mine, because at the end of the day, I can only become my best self when I watch you step into your role and become your best selves too. So yeah. Don't know.
All right, Dr. Smith, based on Mrs. Bowles' comment earlier, you spoke to the younger persons. I would like for you to speak to the older ones about...
But that's not you.
No, not at all. About kind of like what you said earlier. There was a deputy registrar. Things were usually done this way, but you introduced something. There are those of us who believe, because I've been doing it this way for 20 years, and it has worked. I mean, I've really achieved much doing it this way. What do you say to those older persons who they are not entirely wrong, because for real, they have achieved much doing it that way. Yeah. So, in truth and in fact, we don't want to blame them.
Yeah.
But what do you say to them to accept or be open to, let me accept your way. It's not how I've done it. But there is a possibility that your way will reap even better rewards.
That's an excellent question, Ava. Listen, you know, and I'm sure Dr. Paul Wilson will attest to this. You know, at the end of the day, the work isn't really hard, you know. You know what is hard? Managing the people. My God. If you were to, and I'm not being rude in my pronouncements, but you know, if you were to round up a group of animals, it's so much easier sometimes than to motivate people and mobilize people to get them to go function as a vibrant, healthy team. So in answering your question, I'd answer it this way. There's a certain dynamic in an organization that we have to manage. Young people, the younger ones of us, have to respect the older ones, as you have said. They have given their all. They did the best they could with what they had. And we're standing on their shoulders. They knocked the doors down. They broke the glass ceilings. They gave us an opportunity to shine today. At the same time, the converse is also true, that the older ones must understand that the only thing a young person can do is to grow. You know, I don't know if you're from the country, but you know, you have those people in the country who say, "I turn you a turn man now, then what else am I supposed to turn?" What else? Growth is a natural developmental process. So the younger ones of us have to give the older ones their stripes. But the older ones have to understand that the younger ones are, whether you like it or not, are going to take your place. So it behoves you to groom them and to exit graciously, because if you not do it, you're going to drop down dead. And the organization is bigger than any one individual. The organization is global, it's generational. And so it requires all of us to work cohesively and coherently. So the younger ones have to respect the older ones, and the older ones have to just take a step back and say, you know, let me look at the fruit of my labor. Let me experience some gratification to know that I had a hand in grooming and growing and glowing this person. Let me try a different approach, because that's the only way. You know, what young people need is an opportunity. Just give them a chance. But at the same time, us young people can't push them out. We have to be gracious. So it's managing that dynamic. Older ones respecting, younger ones respecting the older ones, and older ones are stepping back and giving them an opportunity. And together, in that nexus of exchange, we can find what will work for the unit or the department or the organization.
Any other question or comment?
Thank you all for those questions. All right, so Dr. Smith, we thank you so much for sharing this very reflective and thought-provoking empowerment session. Just as Ms. Horton shared earlier, it really got us into a place of reflecting on our very own practice, where we are currently in our individual space, and how it is that what we do in our different institutions, how we can go about creating solutions for the challenges that we see and being that vehicle to drive change. So thank you so much, and we appreciate it. And I'm sure that we are better for having listened to you today. Just a change in transmission. We will now be having another item from the Excelsior Community College group, and then we will break for lunch. I'll give you further details on lunch after this item. Please make her welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimoya Willis, and I'll be doing this song, The Greatest Love of All, by Whitney Houston. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never find anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadows. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve, and learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadows. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all. It's easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself. It is the greatest love of all. There's a place that you've been dreaming of. It leads you to a lonely place. Find your strength in love. Find your strength in love.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, right? Steam in action right in front of our eyes. All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful rendition of that song. We are just about to break now for lunch. I'm sure you have been waiting on this segment, and we don't want to stand in the way any longer. Just to inform you all that after lunch, it will be an exciting panel discussion. You certainly do not want to miss it. So please don't go anywhere. We are going to say grace, and after grace, one of the ladies at the front will lead you to the lunch area. We will not be having lunch here. We'll be dining at the cafeteria. That's just through this door. You make a small turn to the left, to the main building, and through the passage. I think I got it right. I think. If not, Mrs. Reed will lead. Mrs. Reed, wave your hand. Let them see who you are. Yes, so Mrs. Reed will lead us. All right. So thank you all. You have been a wonderful audience. Lunch is for 1 hour. Government regulation. Can we bow our heads? Gracious Father, we thank you because all good gifts are sent from heaven above. We thank you for this gathering and your people and for the discussions that we've been having, Lord God. We thank you for the tertiary space and the CCCJ for orchestrating this event. We ask, oh Lord God, as we're about to take part in eating lunch, we ask, dearest God, that the hands that provided, that you will bless same, and that it also be a blessing to our bodies. These are the mercies we ask. We pray. Amen. 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 You may greet each other on your way to lunch.